Hey guys, what's going on here? It's Attack on Anime, and as you can see by the title, today we're going to be discussing what if Itachi actually had a Rinnegan. And I don't really want to go with the script for this video, I just want to see where it kind of takes us, just because I think the idea is going to be pretty interesting, since, you know, there's not really that many points in Naruto that show Itachi at his kind of full strength, full power when he's not sick. And if he wasn't limited by his death, you know, if he was able to progress further and develop more jutsu, or, you know, similar to how Sasuke gets more powerful the older he gets. And I first want to start off with, well, how could Itachi obtain a Rinnegan? Since this is quite a difficult process, as shown throughout, you know, the anime and the manga, but I kind of want to stick with realism here, so I'm just first going to mention the two ways that potentially he could obtain a Rinnegan. And the first is going to be for him to obtain somebody else's eyes, and, you know, use a transplant or transfusion to get them. And the other way is going to be for him to gain 6 path chakra from Hagoromo, which is going to be extremely unlikely anyway. And he also has to be a reincarnate of Indra or Ashura, which we know he isn't from the series. So assuming we're going to go with option 1 and he's going to take somebody else's eyes, the most likely case, since he was already in the Akatsuki, is for him to take Nagato's eyes at some point. Although this is going to be a bit headcanon-y, but he obviously dies before Nagato dies, so we're going to have to assume that Sasuke doesn't kill him at the time period in which he initially does kill Itachi, or Sasuke doesn't kill Itachi at all, so he's able to stay alive and obviously obtain Nagato's eyes at some point. Now, assuming he manages to find Nagato's body before Obito does, and is able to attain 1 or maybe two Rinnegans, it could completely change his power and, you know, power scaling throughout the entire series. Now, if we base it off what Obito said, saying that he couldn't actually wield 2 Rinnegans at the same time, since, you know, it used up extreme amounts of chakra, and he couldn't use it at the same time. Itachi, with his chakra pool, is probably going to be in a similar situation to Obito. So we're going to have to assume that he could only use 1 Rinnegan. However, the powers are still, you know, still massive, still the same kind of power level. So assuming he obtains, you know, his 1 Rinnegan from Nagato, he's now going to be at a point where he can use all the 6 paths abilities that Nagato uses, as well as still being able to use his Susanoo, as shown by Obito and Madara when they have their Rinnegans. So he can still use, you know, the Adamir, Totsuka Blade, and I honestly believe, in my opinion, that this completely changes where Itachi would be in the series in terms of power levels. Since you guys can completely disagree with me down in the comments, but I personally think he is at a level in which he could beat all the Akatsuki members, including Obito, before Obito becomes the Jinchuriki of the Ten Tails. Since there's not really anything any of the Akatsuki members can do to, you know, counter him or beat him in a fight. So if we first start off with, I don't want to call them the fodder members of the Akatsuki, because they're all relatively strong, but if we go for the weaker members firstly, which I'm just going to say is people like Deidara, then Deidara honestly doesn't stand a chance. He already gets shown being placed under Genjutsu by Itachi when he first joins the Akatsuki, and that was Itachi, like a younger version of Itachi, and obviously at that point he only had his Mangekyo Sharingan, so this is a completely different power level, and all of the rest of the Akatsuki on a similar power level, such as Sasori. It's probably going to be a similar scenario. It's not really going to be a contest. Like, there's nothing in their arsenal or any jutsu they could use that could just allow them to actually win in the fight. Now, I want to pull up probably 2 controversial Akatsuki members that, you know, you guys might disagree with me on, which the first you could say is Nagato, since even though Itachi does have all of Nagato's abilities, all the 6 paths abilities, or most likely from the Rinnegan, you could argue that Nagato could still beat Itachi, just because Nagato has much more experience using the Rinnegan, since he used it from such a young age, and Itachi would only be new to it. He's only just started using it, so he's not going to be very skillful. He's not going to have mastered it. Similar to how when Sasuke first gets his Rinnegan, he's not able to he's not able to use it at the full potential compared to when he's at his adult Sasuke form in Naruto. He's mastered his Rinnegan much more, and he's able to travel through, like, you know, space and time, and do all kinds of crazy things with it, and absorb like some kind of jutsus, and just do way more advanced stuff than he was first able to do. But we're basing this on the assumption that he could still use the Six Paths abilities to a decent level. This on top of the fact he can still use his Mangekyo Sharingan abilities, and still use the Susanoo. I just think it's an unwinnable fight for Nagato, just because the Susanoo alone, especially with the Yadamir, it makes it really hard for Itachi to take any significant amount of damage by any real abilities that Nagato uses. And since they still share the same abilities, there's going to be a bit of a counter, just a counter there alone, because Itachi knows exactly what Nagato is going to do. Along with this, there's not really much that Nagato could do to avoid Itachi's attacks, especially since, you know, he's at a really weak state. So if Itachi finds where the actual real Nagato body is, then it's kind of, you know, it's a GG from there, really. It's just over. There's not really any hope. But even if Nagato is in, like, you know, full healthy form, that, like, we're shown when he's revived using Edo Tensei, and he does look pretty OP there, to be fair. He looks pretty strong. He's kind of just manhandling everyone when, you know, he first comes back. But you've got to consider that Itachi literally still has the same abilities, so he's going to be kind of just fucking broken, let's be honest. And then probably the next controversial one is going to be Obito. And Obito is shown at obviously various points throughout the series at different power levels. And even though he's shown, you know, completely just embarrassing Conan, even though she sets up her whole, like, you know, plan and trap for ages, he's clearly shown to be one of the, if not the strongest member of the Akatsuki. And I still think Itachi wins this. However, I don't know how this would occur, because obviously Kamui just enables Obito to just kind of, you know, slip through everything. But if Itachi's able to figure out, like, you know, the cooldown on that ability, I believe it's the 5-second cooldown or something like that, where he can't, you know, just completely spam it, so it isn't quite as broken as he'd think, then he should still be able to win that fight. Although, I now want to move on to once Obito starts using his Rinnegan and becomes Jinchuriki, the Ten Tails, because I think at this point, this is where Itachi falls off. Like, he still loses that fight, since Obito obviously has the Ten Tails, like, powers, and he's also controlling all of the Edo Tensei Jinchuriki that he's, like, revived. So I think this is where Itachi just loses. He straight up loses. He hasn't really got a chance. Like, it would probably still be an interesting fight to watch, but I think he just loses there. And I'd say the same for, you know, 2 Rinnegan Madara, and, you know, Madara with 3 Rinnegans as well. I'd say Itachi loses there. So I'm definitely not going to say he's going to be the strongest in the series, but in terms of, let's say, the Kage, I would say he's at the point where he's just manhandling all the 5 Kage at once, single-handedly, no contest. And you could argue that, you know, there's some people out of the 5 Kage who could contest him, like the Raikage, or the Raikage would probably be the only option, really. But even then, I just don't see this being likely, since Itachi's already quite fast in terms of speed, and now, since he's able to use 6 paths, if he decides to, you know, split his chakra into 6 separate bodies, then his vision is so much better that he can't really get, like, flanked, or the Raikage's speed loses its whole impact there. And plus, he still has the fucking broken Susanoo with the Yadamir, so he just blocks, like, pretty much all that damage. Considering the Raikage struggled with Sasuke's Susanoo, even though he was kind of winning that fight, he still struggled, and that was Sasuke's base. That was his literal base Susanoo, so it didn't have, you know, it wasn't at the same level that Itachi's is. But if we go on to other characters in Naruto, I think the 2 most interesting ones everyone wants to hear about is going to be Sasuke and Naruto. And I'm just going to talk about certain points in Naruto, because I think if we obviously go to, like, adult Sasuke, adult Naruto, it's not really a contest. Like, adult Naruto is too broken. He's like he's on a different level. Like he's out here fighting like fucking super aliens like Momoshiki and stuff like this, and Urashiki. Itachi just loses there. However, if we talk about maybe the war arc Naruto, like Naruto once he gets it, like Kyuubi Chakra mode Naruto, then I think Itachi actually, you know, could win that fight for sure. Just because Naruto doesn't really have, well, like, as in comparing him with Nagato, Naruto already struggled a bit with Nagato until he used the Six Tails Kyuubi Chakra form, but it wasn't, obviously it wasn't a perfect Jinchuriki at that point, so he has had a power buff, but then you still got to consider that Itachi is going to have, well, both the combination of the Rinnegan and the Mangekyo Sharingan, so he's going to be pretty broken too. But I think at the point once Naruto starts gaining 6 paths, power-ups, like 6 path Sage mode, it's over for Itachi. Itachi's just getting one banged. Like the fight's over, man. There's no hope. So I honestly think Itachi does gain a big power buff, but I still don't think he's as strong as adult Sasuke and adult Naruto. However, I still think he could beat Sasuke with one Rinnegan. I think there's quite high potential for that. I just think there's quite a big power gap between you know, Naruto and Sasuke as he gets towards the end of the war arc. But 6 paths Chakra mode Sasuke, I still think wins that fight, although I think it would be close, since, you know, at the Valley of the End, where Naruto and Sasuke have their fight, Naruto is clearly way stronger, just kind of manhandling Sasuke, even though he's not really trying to kill him, whereas Sasuke is. Although Sasuke has absorbed all the, you know, all the what the fuck they're called? All the tailed beasts. So it's unlikely that he's going to be able to win that with that. But if Sasuke didn't have the tailed beast absorbed, I think Itachi would win that fight. So overall, I'd say Itachi would be one of the strongest characters in the series. Honestly, just behind Naruto, 6 paths Naruto, 6 paths Sasuke, potentially. That I'd say that'd be a close fight. Probably 6 paths Sasuke winning that just because of raw speed and stuff like that. And still being behind Madara and Chubito, and I think that's probably where he'd lie, and obviously Kaguya as well. But this is just going to be based off the Naruto characters. I'm not going to start going into, you know, Momoshiki, Urashiki, all these characters from Boruto, because, you know, there's quite a lot of them to mention. I also wanted to quickly add this in that I didn't include in the initial recording, just because I think you guys might want to hear about it, is Itachi against Madara with his EMS, or EMS Madara, so Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, and Hashirama, just because I think these could actually be 2 really close fights, and it depends on a lot of stuff, or a lot of features. Like, for example, I think against Madara, it depends on Madara's ability to adapt, since you know, they're both really intelligent characters, and if how Itachi decides to use Rinnegan's abilities, if he uses chakra rods, and what he controls with the chakra rods. For example, if he controls like reincarnated Jinchuriki, like the way Obito does, then I would say Madara loses that, because I don't know, I just can't see a way for him winning that fight. But then again, if, you know, Itachi doesn't do that, there's a chance Madara still wins, just because of his, you know, perfect Susanoo. And even when you see the battle initially against Hashirama, you get to see how actually OP and strong even just Madara with his EMS is. And similarly, I think against Hashirama, it also could be a 50-50, just depending on a variety of features. Although, if he does decide to start controlling like the tailed beast and whatnot, and Jinchuriki, it honestly depends on how Hashirama decides to fight that, and if he can adapt as well, because Hashirama obviously can control tailed beasts, so he could completely negate that ability. And when he busts out the whole giant, like, 1,000-hand statue, or whatever it's called, that is pretty fucking OP, and that could honestly just negate Itachi and just fucking roll him straight away. Then the fight's over. So those two, I honestly think situational, and it depends on how, like, the fight's gonna go. But yeah, I'm just gonna say, in my opinion, I think Itachi beats Madara, EMS Madara, and I think he also Actually, no, I'm gonna say, but I think he would lose to Hashirama, just because of the fact Hashirama initially beat Madara in the first place, and he just summons like all kinds of things, and the fact he can control Tailed Beast if necessary. But that's my opinions on what if Itachi had a Rinnegan. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments, whether you agree or disagree with me, and what you think. If you find the video interesting, you've got any friends you think would enjoy the watch and a bit of a discussion, then just share it with them. And please like and subscribe, and comment and do whatever you want to do. But I'll catch you guys in the next one.